Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you as always for tuning back in. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Layla, the Lenormand reader, and I am one of the few people who focuses almost exclusively on the amazing Lenormand deck. So be sure to check out all the links that I have in the description box for you, from the master courses to the master guides to a whole lot of free resources that I have on the website. I would love for you to get to know this amazing deck more or delve more deeply into it if you're already on this wonderful path. So welcome to this new reading, folks. We are doing a pick a card, as you can tell. We've got 3 decks that I'm going to use in each of the readings. So this is a layered layout like I've been doing recently. And I have 3 charms, so we will do 3 separate readings. The reading today is focused on what wishes are going to materialize more or less soon for you. So in terms of this idea of soon, it is the near future, and you might want to define that for yourself. So set yourself in a time frame kind of mindset so that you can focus on what wishes are going to materialize for you in the coming phase through this reading. So the 3 charms are this lovely bronze pomegranate, and this dice, and this ancient coin. Be sure to check out the timestamps in the description box, and also have a pause if you want to think about which reading you want to focus in for this, I would say, a really important question. And I will see you in your reading. Okay, Pomegranate group, let's start with you. We've got the first deck that I'm going to lay out in a 9-card portrait. This is the Game of Hope. All the decks are linked in the description box. And I really like to start with the bigger deck because it sort of sets the table for the smaller decks, and then we can see all the cards on top of each other. So let's go ahead and deal out your first 9-card portrait. Okay, here is your first 9-card portrait, and I have to say that what really stands out to me is a wish that fulfills in your career and your work area. We've got the fox as the first card here, and the fox is a card of jobs and employment. And I know that the fox can be a bit tricky. If you've been following my channel, you would know that, but it is surrounded by pretty good cards. We've got the key, the tower, the clover, the beautiful flowers in the rest of the spread, and we have the bear in the middle. When it comes to work, the bear points to authority, leadership. And when I see the fox and bear together along with the ring and the other cards, I feel that you could be getting a promotion, some kind of improvement in your work, some kind of step up. It can feel like a wonderful kind of reward for all the work you've been putting in. Now, the fox is typically about jobs, but maybe you're not employed, maybe you run your own business. Even then, the cards are really supportive and they suggest a step up. And depending on how you work or how you live your life, you can more generally, like beyond just focusing on the work theme, you could look forward to some kind of growth and empowerment. And this could make you feel fulfilled, and you're going to feel like you have confidence in yourself. Now, the ring on the other side of the bear can suggest this idea of commitments and involvements, which works really well with the idea of getting promoted. So now you have a new level of commitment. There are new expectations, but the bear and ring can also suggest relationships, and important ones. It can suggest a connection with someone of influence. Now, in this case, the line takes on a pretty interesting suggestion. The idea of the fox here, especially as your cover card, suggests that you want to play it smart with these important people that you have a connection with. You want to get your way with them, or to sort of win them over in one way or another. You've got to be diplomatic, you've got to be patient, and the indirect route is going to be the more successful one. Now, in the second diagonal, we see the man. So the man really brings into the picture a person. It would generally be a man, but it could be someone else. And with the bear, it does point to, a sense of authority here. So this could be a boss or someone of influence, a leader of sorts. And he is the person who is directly related to you getting this wish of empowerment. The clover on the other side of the bear is lovely, The Clover is one of the luckiest cards of the deck. So clearly this person has your back. This person helps you achieve your goal of growth and empowerment. And I really feel this is someone you could rely on, but again, just thinking back to the Fox here, you still want to maintain this, this proper and diplomatic and smart connection with this person. Now the Fox, Tower, and Clover. I feel this is yet another indication of the job. The Tower can be associated with corporations and businesses, organizations more generally. And so with the Fox and Clover here, you do really well in this regard. I can also add, Pomegranate group, that the Tower can be associated with things like the law, official matters, legal matters, administration. And so maybe you're pursuing an administrative matter, but again, I think it works out really well thanks to the Clover. In the second row, a beautiful line here, Key, Bear, and Flowers. These are two very bright cards in the deck, and the Bear is that sense of growth and empowerment, and it also makes everything big. So with the Key and Flowers, we have like a big, strong wish that materializes for you. But again, what I'm seeing here is that sense of empowerment. What's interesting is the Key here. I think we can refine the nuance of the Key. The Key can mean like a breaking into. So it's like you finally get that breaking into the next level. You break through, you step into it. So a door opens. This is lovely. Creativity can also be highlighted with the Flowers. So, once you're past the point of being diplomatic and all, and you have a bit more elbow room to express yourself, this could be welcome. The bottom row, I have to say, Pomegranate group, really interesting here. We have the Snake. Now the Snake is typically challenging. The Snake in relationships has to do with secrecy, sometimes straight out dishonesty, and we also have the Ring here to really add to that. So I would have said that this is someone who is dishonest or someone who's doing something behind your back, but it's not so fitting with the rest of the really positive messages. So the other positive cards really downplay the Snake in here, and they emphasize this idea of the Fox. I am also attracted to the corner cards here with the diagonal. The Fox and Snake are similar in the sense that they point to diplomacy, being roundabout, being focused on your goals, more or less self-interested, but the Clover is a really supportive card, so it tends to downplay the more toxic aspects of the Snakes. So I feel that, again, we're getting the message here, or a confirmation of what we suggested earlier, that the Fox really advises you to be smart and clever. So be sure you are patient with this person, that you know what to say, that you're saying the right things, you're being nice. And I would also say you don't have to tell this person everything, okay? So be selective and have good judgment about what you share with this person, because there is progress and you don't want to sabotage anything here. Now the Fox, Key, and Man is a similar message here. I think the messages are consistent. This is a breakthrough, a positive outcome, a wish fulfillment, very well confirmed by the Key. And like we said, the Fox plays the double role of advising you to be smart and clever, and also points to this idea of work, employment. And so I feel that the reading for you is very much about your job success, your work success, or it's not the personal thing, it's your main activity in life. You get support from this man here, helps you break through. Now the Tower, Bear, and Snake, this is a really interesting line for me. Pomegranate group, how I said that the Tower can suggest the official and administrative side of things, legal things. Well, the Bear can actually add to that. When we see the Bear and Tower together, it can point to some kind of office, some kind of authority. And so you could be trying to find a way, maybe you're looking for an approval of something, or getting, winning something over to your side. Again, the Snake here really cautions you against being too direct. And the focus on being discreet, on being roundabout and diplomatic is very much highlighted when we see it in this context here. The Tower and Bear is another confirmation of authority, managers, CEOs, like typically really people at the top. I wonder also if the Snake might suggest a bit of envy here. So as you break through and you succeed, you could attract a bit of envy, and you might want to manage that in a smart way. But this last column here, very, very beautiful. Clover flowers together, two very bright cards together with the ring. So clear to me that this is a very supportive relationship, and it helps you break through and materialize your goals and achieve a whole lot of success. So despite the potential challenge and trickiness that you sort of go through with this person, I think you break through and you do land on both feet, and you get, I would say, exactly what you want. So Pomegranate, in this first cut, we are seeing a focus on your work life. Essentially, we are seeing a focus on a promotion of sorts, a step up, growth and empowerment in every way, depending on what you think is the most important way for you, and a relationship, a person, a connection, clearly in the cards for you. Supportive, but also a bit tricky. So keep that in mind and be discreet and patient. A wonderful set of cards. Okay, so with this said, let's move on to your next layer of a portrait. And for this, I will be using Titania's Fortune cards, another one of my favorite decks. And I am gonna draw your second 9-card portrait on top of this one. Oh, the Tower again. The Ring again. Oh, the beautiful Clover again. Now that is nice. I'm really interested by the Scythe over the Ring. This is going to be an important combination. We have the Ring twice, we have the Clover twice, and we have the Tower twice. So I really like the ship in this set of cards here, because the ship is very much about forward movement. We've got the Tower as your top card. Here I feel that this is a sense of guidance. The Tower is one of those cards that can take on a few different meanings. And on the first position on a portrait, it tends to suggest the idea of being guided. What I'm seeing here, Pomegranate Group, is that you need to be patient for things to unfold. Maybe you don't have a complete visibility in how you're going to land your promotion wish or your growth wish. So you really need to be patient and trust that things are unfolding. What's really nice is the ship in the middle. So the ship is all about forward movement, adventure, going after goals, going after ambitions. And the Scythe here adds a bit of a different dimension. The Scythe can suggest that you make a change in direction. When I look at the second diagonal, I'm also getting a sense of that. The Stork is another one of those movement cards. Normally, the ship and stork can mean immigration and long-haul travel. Of course, this doesn't have to apply literally like this in the context of this reading, but it's clear that there is an exciting direction that opens up. It can open up suddenly. It can be a change from where you're heading right now, and it can even be a big radical change. The clouds can muddy things a little bit. The clouds can add a bit of uncertainty, a bit of turbulence, especially with something like the ship and stork. So as you set sail in this new direction, you could feel like you're a little bit, you don't have a strong ground as you transition. I think that's fine. The Tower, Ring, and Stork is lovely for developments in your relationships. I think we can look at this line in a couple of ways. The Ring can literally refer to a person with whom you have a connection, but it can also suggest, like what we saw in the first layer portrait, that it can point to your commitments. So you're probably going to be busy. You're probably going to have a lot on your plate, and you want to be active and be ready to live up to the new commitments, live up to the expectations, and also be faithful to those who have supported you. The House, Ship, and Clover can suggest a trip or a move. And when I look at these two pairs, this possibility is increased for you, Pomegranate Group. So it's possible that there are changes on the home front, in your workplace, and you move forward in this direction. The Clover is beautiful, of course, one of the luckiest cards. So it confirms that these are positive changes that you do want to undertake. So this is really lovely. This is an interesting line. I think this is a helpful line, even though it is a bit challenging. The clouds and anchor can mean that you've been feeling doubt. You could have been questioning yourself. You could have been hesitating. You could have been unsure about how you should do this next step forward. But actually, with the scythe on the other side of the anchor, you need to stop being wobbly and you need to make a decision. And it sounds like you're going to make a decision to make that change and move forward in this new direction. So actually, this is pretty exciting. The Tower, House, and Clouds. I can read this line in a number of different ways, but honestly, I'm getting an intuition that the best way to read this line is in terms of the decisions that are going to affect this change for you. The Tower, again, is that, that level of authority and so forth. And with the House, which is a more intimate setting, I feel we could be looking at, like the management team. And with the Clouds, they could be deliberating about your path ahead. And that would apply best in the context of you having a job. But of course, you could be in business for yourself, or maybe you do something else in your life. And it's still the idea of a decision kind of making process, maybe a brainstorming process, thinking about the best way forward. It seems to be really well captured by these cards. I would take this line, especially since it figures in the right-hand column, to also suggest that you want to think a little bit about where you're heading. So it looks like there's this thinking, hesitation sort of phase that you're going through. And then once you've made up your mind, you have to take action. And that's fine. But what we don't want is that you spend too much time in a state of indecision. You don't want that. You want to break out of this thinking process soon enough and set sail. The ring, ship, and anchor clearly tells us that you're going to set sail in this direction. You're going to take on this adventure and you are going to do well in it. The anchor after the ship tends to point to this idea of landing, so arriving after the trip. And so I take this to mean that you want to pursue this project or this job or this, enhanced position until you achieve what you set out to achieve in it, and you will achieve. The anchor is not just about arriving and landing, it's also a card of success. It's very strong and supportive, so you've got everything it takes. The stork, clover, and scythe is lovely. It has to do with a lucky break. I take that literally with the clover and scythe. And with the stork here, it's really the idea of an event, the breakthrough that we saw earlier with the key. So definitely this adds to the first layer portrait. Very exciting. Forward movement is ahead. I can sum this up, Pomegranate, to say that the changes that you want to see happen are going to materialize. And so this really answers this wish question that we're doing for this reading really well. Here, the key thing to overcome is this idea of making a decision and not being wobbly, at least not for too long. Think about it, but then make a decision and move forward. So with this said, let's go with the third layer portrait. And here I have my own cards. This is the Silhouettes deck. Let's see what we get on top of these lovely cards. Okay, so more cards that support what we saw in the earlier layers. The fish stands out to me here. The fish is a card of money, so I really feel that it confirms this theme that we're looking at, and it's next to the fox. This is definitely a wish fulfillment that has to do with your work and career and business, money side of your life for you, Pomegranate group. These are lovely cards. We've got the fox again. We've got the garden. It's a neutral card, but it points to connections and community. I love the sun and the flowers around the fish. They're very good for wish fulfillment. So we have here another confirmation that you're about to land your career, business, and money-related goals in the near term, hopefully. So let's weave these diagonals with a bit more detail. The garden is about community and society. It has to do with networking and socializing. Again, I'm seeing this idea that your connections here or someone, Again, we're seeing the idea of networking and connecting is important for you, except that with the rest of the cards, it seems to be focused on a specific person. And we have the man again here, and we have the ring, and we got the ring 3 times, was it already? Yep, we got the ring 3 times. So it seems to be the most important card or a strong sign. So it's important that you make time to meet with this person, with these people. They are going to support you with your growth. The fish and dog is great for customers. It can also be colleagues. And so with the garden here, we could be looking at the marketplace and really you getting more deeply into the marketplace and getting some reward out of that. So you definitely want to network, maybe get customers, get support, make connections with others. It depends really on what exactly you do. And what you want to do is you want to expand your outreach so that brings you more income. I love the second diagonal too. It's great. The ring with the fish and tower. These are really good cards for long-term financial security. The ring and fish, I often take to mean customers because the fish brings money and the ring is a connection. So it's a really good combination to suggest, the idea that you have a long-term supportive connection with your customers, that you are there for them, that they support your business, and they're also faithful to what you do. That could be through your own business or through your job, depending on how you operate. But any way you look at these cards, they're really supportive for job success, business success, and income. The garden, sun, and tower. This is a lovely combination suggesting that you anchor yourself in a community over the long term. We could be looking at some kind of success and popularity and also recognition and appreciation. With the fox, fish, and man, again, we are seeing this person who comes through for you in the context of work and money. And even if he's a little bit tricky, because of the fox, I still think this is a supportive person who really contributes to your success, and also in this portrait to your financial success. Again, Pomegranate group, I want to suggest that you make sure you're smart about your relationship with this person. Again, he could be a tricky character, a tricky type, but you want to manage this relationship. It is worth your time because he seems to be really supportive of your success. And in the bottom row, we have a beautiful set of cards. We have the ring, flowers, and dog. And this is wonderful for relationships. Like I suggested, the dog can point to customers or other people in your environment that are supportive. And in this line, I really feel there's a very positive sense of collaboration. This works really well with the garden that covers you. So in this portrait, we're seeing the idea that you land in this place. We saw this landing idea in the second portrait. You land in this environment that is very supportive of your success, that brings you income. It can be the niche or the market within which you operate, and you do really well in it. People appreciate you. This guy who was supporting you throughout continues to support you. It's like you're able to penetrate this market. You become part of it, and you reap a lot of rewards from it. So these are great cards for money, for business, for doing well on the job, for collaborating with others. They're very supportive cards overall. And in answering our question of this, what wish is going to be fulfilled, there are 2 key things that come out. One, your wishes are going to be fulfilled near term, depending on what you define as near term. And also they seem to be, those wishes that we're focusing on are clearly in the more practical, material, work-related aspects of your life. The relationship aspect came through, but again, because of the context, it seems to be a professional relationship more than a personal one. So with these 3 beautiful portraits completed, let's close the reading with the triplets, the 3D part, what I like to call the 3D part of the reading. I love this part. I like how it ties everything together. In the first position here, we've got the fox, tower, and garden. So I really feel this can point to colleagues, it can point to managers, and it can point to the idea of you anchoring yourself long-term in a community. I also think it's really good advice, Pomegranate group. It tells you to be patient. It does generally take a bit of time to establish yourself in a certain environment. You just be clever, focus on the goals, be diplomatic throughout, and use good judgment about all the different people that surround you in this environment. We have got the Tower, Ring, and Sun. So this is long-term success. And you're going to make some connections for the long term. There's lots of support, mutual support, and you're going to be really good at this. You're going to do really well, and you're going to be in there for a long time. So this change that is coming through, this new direction, this enhancement and empowerment is going to last a while. It's going to be really good for you, and it is going to last a while. And here's the Tower. So we got the Tower 3 times. 3 times. So the Tower is another one of those triple power cards, telling you to keep your vision on the long term. The Clover, Stork, and Tower is great for positive changes. So again, I think these are changes that are going to affect you long term. And the Clover, being one of the luckiest cards, suggests that you are going to get your wish. And it's going to impact you over the longer term. So a lovely message in here as well. Oh, look at this, the Key and the House and Fox. So clearly you break into this space, and the Fox can possibly attract a bit of envy. I'm seeing again your Fox. So we get the Fox twice, right? There is a strong focus on you being calm and diplomatic. So really keep your eyes on the goal, and also be aware of the kinds of characters that surround you. I feel there could be a bit of envy, but you want to be discreet and tone things down, so you get along. Exciting middle cards, the Bear, Ship, and Fish. So this is a really important venture. You could be you could be moving into your own business. Maybe you're moving from the job into a business, or you're starting a business while you keep your job, or you are already in business for yourself and you are moving into a wonderful new project that looks to be pretty fruitful. And in all cases, these cards point to an exciting new direction, and they certainly advise you to set sail in this and really embrace this, this empowerment that we see through the Bear. So very exciting to see these cards in the middle. And notice that they really focus the theme, like the Fish is the strongest card for the theme, but we also saw this in your Fox. And of course in the different combinations. So the focus for you, Pomegranate group, is clearly the work and career and money area. Look at this one, Flowers, Clover, and Man. So again, despite the tricky combinations that we saw with the Man in the different portraits, I really think at the end of the day, this is someone supportive. The Flowers and Clover, these are 2 of the brightest cards with the Man. I really think this is someone who has your back, who supports you, and who cares about you. Lovely cards as well. Okay, the Man again, the Clouds and Rain. So here is another combination where we thought, well, it could be a bit of a tricky connection, and that's fine. Maintain diplomacy. I think you want to err on the side of safety. Don't be too friendly, or how do I put it, too personal with this person. Maintain a proper relationship, even if you feel sometimes that you want to maybe get closer to him, or, things like that. I think it's best that you maintain a professional demeanor with this person. Again, the Clouds can bring in a few of the challenges that we saw with him in the portraits. But again, there are other combinations that are really positive around him. So I feel that the issues are temporary, or maybe, you could be having second thoughts at some points, but I think it works out nicely. All right, here's a nice combination. The Snake and Anchor. I take this to mean that you want to give this a chance. Sometimes the Snake and Anchor arrives when you feel like you want to give up on something, and the Anchor shows up to tell you not to give up on it. The Anchor tells you to stick with it, so bear with it. And then we have the Flowers for you. That is a lovely confirmation of success. So hang in there, bear with this, or I should say bear with the tricky aspects of this, because you are gonna get your wish. Isn't this lovely? Nice cards. Finally, the Scythe and ring and dog. And I have to say, when we were doing the second portrait, this immediately stood out to me. This is a very loud combination. It is the combination of divorce. It's really hard not to see it this way. We have the dog with it. What comes to mind in the context of the rest of the cards when we see a divorce combination like this is that some connections might fall through, as you embrace a promotion or some kind of higher level moving forward. There are some people you might leave behind, or you might disconnect from your previous engagement to move into the next involvement, which is clearly coming through here. And this idea actually came through pretty well in the second portrait, right? Yes, here, where we saw there was a change between the ship and stork combination, and also with the scythe, the ship and scythe. So we have this added element, and I mean adding to the whole reading for you, that there are changes. And, as you set sail in this new direction, there are changes, and these changes can involve certain partings or moving on from certain connections so that you can embrace the next phase. I'm not saying this is painful, though. It sounds like, it's just like a normal separation. For example, you move on from this team, you go on to another team. You part with your previous colleagues. You move up, you're going to part with your colleagues and become a manager. There's also some kind of break here. And then if you are moving into a new direction, a new market, you could be parting with certain other connections that are no longer part of what you're doing now. So it seems to be neutral as opposed to dramatic, which would normally be the case with the ring and scythe. So overall, Pomegranate Group, this is a powerful moment for you in your career, in your work, your business, the practical aspects of your life. And it looks like a step up, some kind of promotion, some kind of empowerment. There is a relationship that you need to handle well. There are other relationships that come into the picture as part of the process of change, but we're definitely seeing that you're embracing like a bigger you of sorts moving forward. The long-term vision is important, so be sure that you are aware of how the coming changes affect you long-term. Otherwise, it looks like you're in for more money, more success, more connections, more customers, more empowerment across the board. And what was that wish of yours exactly in terms in the near term is going to materialize. So beautiful reading for you, Pomegranate Group. I am, as always, looking forward to your comments. Please leave me a couple. I love to read them. Very best of luck with this amazing transition that you're heading into. Let me know how it goes. And as always, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, take very good care of yourself. Hello, Dice Group. Welcome to your reading. Let us focus on what wish is going to materialize for you near term. So think about what area you would like to look into for this reading and what near term means for you, really. I am starting with the Game of Hope here. I like the larger cards at the bottom. Let's lay out the first layer of the 9-card portrait and see what wish is at hand for you. Okay, Dice Group, look at this amazing reading. Look at these amazing cards. We have a very clear message that materializes for you. We have the focus is on a relationship. We don't only have the ring, we have the woman and the man all in the central column of your first layer of a 9-card portrait here. And so it is a very clear message to me that we are looking at a relationship that is going to materialize. Now, I have to say the earlier column is really interesting. We have the whip at the top here as your first card, and the whip is a challenging card. And I would say the most challenging card of the deck. And we see it as your first card. Now, the book and road points to a parting, a separation. And the thing about the book in the middle here is that there could have been some unknowns. It could have been like, like you weren't sure where things were going to go. And maybe the other person sort of disappeared, or it was a situation that you didn't really understand. And this could have caused you a bit of pain. confusion, and it could have felt like things were hanging, like you didn't get closure. And I'm using the past tense here because the right hand side column is often associated with the earlier aspects of a reading or the past. And when I look at this line, in comparison with the central column, it's very clear that there's like a sequence here of how the story is unfolding. It could have been that there was a parting and then there is a new relationship or a renewal in the same relationship. And then in this column here, we have the cross tree and mountain, where I feel that because of the earlier issues and in view of the reunion, if you like, things unfold, but they unfold a bit more slowly, a bit more carefully in this part of the reading. And what's also adding to this is the fact that the right-hand side column, did I say right here? The right-hand side column here is the future-most aspects of a reading. So it's like there's an unfolding to the story. Initially, there was a painful situation, there is some kind of reconnection or a connection, and then there is like the progress that unfolds a bit carefully. The tree is generally a lovely card. It has to do with strength and growth, and it is just a bit slower. And with the cross and mountain, things are still a little bit cold. So as my first take or my first intuition from looking at these cards, especially with the unfolding of these cards, is that maybe you're hoping for a reconnection with a person where things sort of went on hold, or there was a fallout of sorts, and you want to reconnect with this person. If that's the case, you will certainly reconnect with this person. It's just that moving forward, things are still a little bit, you have to tread a little bit carefully as you move forward. Now, I normally start with the diagonals, but the columns stood out for me from the get-go because of this very powerful, very clear central column. So I'm going to circle back to the diagonals first before moving to the rows. So the whip and woman and mountain here clearly point to a situation with this woman. You could represent her, or she could be someone else. And with the whip, there is clearly an argument or a painful episode. And the mountain here points to the idea of coldness when it comes to relationship, the idea of being far away, being distant. Now, the mountain is sometimes a place in a different place, like a different city, a different country, or farther away from where you are. But I feel in the context of relationships, which is clearly the theme of your reading, it's more about that sense of distance and coldness, giving someone the cold shoulder, or, being apart for a while. And certainly this column supports this idea. Now, looking at the woman and between the road and cross here, I feel that you had to make a tough choice, or you were at crossroads and you weren't sure where this relationship is going. I do think that, of course, we're going to look at the other portraits, but from this first cut here, I think that you will be able to give this relationship another chance. There is a sense of reconnection, and moving forward, you'll be going a bit more carefully, and this coldness and distance is going to sort of thaw out a little bit, and you'll see, you'll give it time and see how things evolve. So let's move on to the rows. We've got the whip, ring, and cross. So again, with the whip here, we see the challenges in the relationship. I think this confirms what we saw in the right-hand side column, and the cross in this line would come out as a bit more difficult than I would normally read it. The cross can point to a bit of pain and also a bit of regret. That works really well with what we're seeing in this line. I think that this sense of, when you didn't have closure, can add to this sense of regret, where you're trying to go back and to understand what happened, or, backtrack a little bit on what happened. I think in this sense, I know these feelings can be difficult to deal with, but I feel in this sense the cards can be really reassuring because they tell us that a reconnection is possible. In the second row, we have an interesting message. We have the book, woman, and tree. And, the book is really bringing in some unknown matters. It's like you're not sure how to move forward with this. But with the tree, it really asks you to be patient. And I think it comes into contrast with what we see with the whip here. So you don't want to jump the gun. You don't want to try to force anything. You want to just, allow things to unfold, and if there is a bit of uncertainty, that's okay. In time, things will clarify. In the bottom row, we have the road and mountain on either side of the man. These are both travel cards on their own, so when they show up together, the idea of travel could be highlighted. This is possible, so there could have been a physical distance thing happening for you, but more generally, and it would apply in all cases, this idea of a distance and parting is clearly in the cards for you, dice group. So this is highlighting a relationship where there has been maybe a misunderstanding, a fallout, and along with a need for closure that didn't happen. And so the lovely aspect of your reading is that you will be able to reconnect with this person. If that is your wish, it is a lovely, lovely message, despite the challenging cards in here. So with this said, let's move on to the second layer of portrait for you. And for this, I am going to use Titania's deck. This is another one of my favorite decks. So that was the clover at the bottom of the deck. I don't typically look at these cards, it's not my thing, but sometimes they sort of stand out, so I like the message here. Let's see if we get a similarly sweet message in this second layer portrait. So here's the mountain a second time, this time in the middle. The heart, nice. Okay, interesting cards. So the mountain in the center of your portrait is mirrored from the first cut here. Again, this idea of a distance, of a separation is highlighted. The child can mean that there's a new relationship that comes into play, or perhaps there's a new chapter. I can define this or demark it, but I want to keep it open for this pick-a-card reading. For some of you, what I mean by that is that for some of you, it might be the renewal of a relationship. For others, it might be a new relationship. In both cases, this new chapter, it comes in the wake of a bit of pain and challenges that happened before. So let's get into this portrait. We've got the dog as your cover card. The dog is a friendly card. It has to do with friendships. And the mountain is, like we said, this idea of distance and separation. But with the child, it has a different meaning. The combination points to a really important chapter that is in the making. This is clearly about this new relationship phase. And like I said, dice group, your reading is focused on a relationship. This is very clear from the cards. We've got the house, mountain, and letter. So this is contact and news. So this is where I feel that the possibility of a reconnection is in the cards, at least for some of you. And the house and mountain points to, a place from far away. So clearly from these two diagonals, dice group, there is a new chapter with this person, with this friend, and there is contact. So again, like I said, I can keep it open. Either it is a new relationship or it is a renewal in the connection. The dog, clouds, and letter. So I'm just going ahead with the rose in here. The clouds is a little bit of a cloudy card. Literally, it can cloud over the brightness, so it can cause a bit of confusion and doubt. And with the letter here, there could be, a bit of issues in the communication. Obviously, if this is someone with whom there was issues or there was that fallout, initially when you reconnect, it can feel a bit off, or you're not sure how best to communicate, or it's a bit awkward at first. And this is what we could be seeing here. But if it's a new relationship, there could be maybe shyness, or, you know, not sure how to approach this relationship. The mountain between the Tower and Heart is lovely, actually. Again, this to me is another suggestion that it can be a previous relationship. So far, I feel the cards are tending more towards renewing a relationship, but again, I can keep it open and suggest that there could be a new relationship altogether for some of you in the dice group. The Tower and Mountain points to the deep past. And with the Heart, it can point to love or a connection from the deep past. So you can see why I feel the cards are tending more towards the idea of a reconnection with someone. So this is a lovely line suggesting that you are going to reconnect with this person. In the bottom line, though, we have the Child, which is a new card. So again, you know, I feel it can go both ways depending on your specific situation. In the bottom line here, we have some beautiful cards. We've got the House, Flowers, and Child. The Flowers is another card of renewal. This is a card that points to the idea of things coming back. So I have yet another suggestion that points to the idea of a renewal of an existing relationship. And with the Child, there is that sense of renewal because the Flowers is about spring. And with the House here, we can literally take it to mean a house, like, you know, a place. We're going back to a place. But I think more broadly and probably more appropriately in the context of this reading, it's really about, it's more about, you know, this intimacy and a sense of being together and being close, rekindling sort of the closeness that was in the relationship. So again, we're seeing a renewal and a relationship that might have soured, that might have gone through some obstacles. So these are some really bright cards in this regard. The Dog, Tower, and House. Again, the Tower is the card of the past. With the House, there could have been a previous connection, you know, like you were part of a group from the past, or, you know, you were together in a certain context. And, you know, the Dog brings up the friends and the friendships here. So again, I'm seeing a strong indication of a past connection that comes back into the picture for you. The Clouds, Mountain, and Flowers. This is that, the Clouds and Mountain is that sense of separation. And with the Flowers, we're seeing the renewal. So this distance and this coldness is going to be closed off, and it's going to be thawed out. And I feel that what we're seeing here in this portrait especially is that sense of warmth coming back into the picture for you in this relationship. This is a lovely column. The letter, Heart, and Child. I mean, it is very clear. These are love letters or sweet messages, kind exchanges between you and the other person. And the Child is a card that represents anything new and new beginnings, but it's also a joyous card. So like I said, this can be a new relationship, or it can be a renewal in a relationship and a newfound sense of closeness with that person. We have the Dog as your cover card, and it is a card of friendships, more so than love relationships, especially with the Heart. And they're not adjacent, but they are at corners. And so in the renewal phase, the focus is going to be on rekindling the friendship. So these are very beautiful messages to help you reconnect in a relationship. With this said, I'm really curious to know if it's going to evolve into a love relationship, at least for some of you. So let's draw the last portrait. And here we are using my own deck, the Silhouettes deck, and let's deal out these 9 cards. Okay, we are seeing recurring messages from the previous portraits. Obviously, the Mountain and Child, jumps out. We had it in the previous portrait as well. So the emphasis on this new chapter, probably one whose importance you do not yet see, is very clearly coming into the cards. And notice we've got two mountains here. We'll get to the triplets and get to that, but we have the child again, we have the tower again, the whip again, which is the challenging card, and do we have, yes, the clouds again. So these are really going to help reconfirm the messages. Let's read these cards in turn. The tree, mountain, and road. We're seeing another message of travel. We saw it in the first portrait here. So maybe it does involve a bit of physical travel. Maybe part of the problem was not just maybe a misunderstanding of sorts, but also that, you literally had to go separate ways as in a physical sense. You could also be waiting on an opportunity to go somewhere, to travel in order to be able to connect or reconnect with this person. And also the tree helps you sort of let go of expectations and see where the path takes you. So I think it's a good idea to release expectations for you, dice group, and sort of chill out a little bit about this. We've got the anchor, mountain, and whip. I can read this in a number of ways. The whip is a challenging card, and with the mountain, there are clear obstacles. But the mountain and anchor is also about having a foothold abroad. And when I see it with the whip, it's possible that it contributes to this idea of having to go places and to go to a different place. So you might have, changed where you're based, or the other person might have changed where they're based. And so this has caused, has contributed to the separation. That is possible. But also we can read the line as suggesting that, despite the obstacles, you might want to give this another chance, and soon enough things will warm up. This works well with the tree. The tree is also a card of being patient and to, allow things to unfold. The idea is really to hang on, to stick with this and give this a bit of time for the issues to sort of resolve themselves, for the distance to be closed off, to get an opportunity to get together again, where you can work things out and reconnect in whatever way that applies to you. Whether this involves travel or other kinds of contact, it's going to depend on you. The tree and key is a special combination that points to achieving a very important goal. And with the whip here, I feel that the best way to read this in light of what's going on is that you will be able to understand what happened. You will be able to resolve your differences. I think this can have a lot of good potential for you. This is potentially really, really powerful. So we can look forward to resolving the issues. But again, with the tree as your cover card and the other combination, it's a good idea to hang in there and to allow things to unfold. With the clouds, mountain, and tower. So this is another combination that we saw, emphasizing the deep past. With the clouds, I think this has been on your mind for a while. This really mirrors well what we saw in the first portrait cut. This was never resolved for you. The issues were never resolved, and they've sort of, they kept hanging in your mind. And I think maybe one of your wishes could be, can this ever be resolved? And the answer is yes. And this is a really beautiful message, because it's not, it's an inner thing. It's a psycho-spiritual thing. It has to do with your feelings. And a lot of readings don't address this in these ways, but this reading does in a pretty special way, I have to say, dice group. So this is lovely. And then we look at the anchor, child, and road, and again we are seeing similar messages playing out, that you are going to move into a new chapter. So again, I feel this most likely points to a new chapter that resolves a past issue within the same relationship. But for some of you, it could be a new relationship altogether. And with the anchor, we have a strong supportive message of, moving into that new chapter. So I think that We can take the child to suggest an idea of forgiveness. We can suggest it with the tower, with the flowers. You know, there is this idea of forgiveness and moving on. So a beautiful message. The tree, clouds, and anchor. Another confirmation that you're going to hang in there until the issues are resolved. You're waiting for the opportunity for this to happen, and the cards encourage you to stick with it. The key, mountain, and child, like we said already a few times, a very important chapter opens up. You might not realize to what extent it is, but it is, and it is going to open up. And the key really helps with problem solving, resolution. And notice that a T crosses the top row where we had the whip. So a beautiful message of success and opening into a new chapter. I really like this column here. I know the whip is a challenging card and we don't want to see it, but in this line it is great. That's because the tower is a card of the past. And in the past we have that problem. And then we have the road on the other side of the tower. And then we have the road at the other side of the tower. So it looks like this idea of moving past the issues and moving forward and leaving them behind is highlighted in your cards. Very clear from this simple 3-card line, that speaks volumes about what's going on. So these are some really nice cards that tell us that you're going to resolve an issue between you and someone else. You're going to be able to reconnect with that person. You're going to be able to rekindle the feelings, the emotions, even if it's starting out with a friendship, and even if it's even if the whole relationship is just a friendship, you are going to be able to rekindle these feelings and reconnect and move past the problems. It might take a bit of time. It might not be clear how it's done. You might go through a phase where things are a bit cloudy between the two of you, but really hang in there and give this a chance, and soon enough you'll be on the other side of it. So with this said, let's wrap up with the triplet. So starting with the top triplet here, we've got the whip, tree on either side of the dog. So again, there is this clear indication of a quarrel or a disagreement with someone, but the tree, especially as the last card, suggests that you were sort of hanging in there, that you never really gave up on this, and that you're giving it time. We've got the ring, clouds, and key here. So the clouds can sort of muddy the relationship, but what's really nice is the key. And here we're seeing this idea of a solution, a resolution, and understanding the differences or understanding what happened. So the messages are clear. I really like this. The cross, letter, and whip. This can point to a challenging piece of news. The cross and whip can point to regret. So you could be regretting a message that was sent, or maybe a communication that happened between the two of you. It can be something that happens again, as you sort of reconnect, where you sort of you trip a little bit as you reconnect with the person, but it can also highlight the regret, especially because of the cross. So again, we're seeing that there were issues that happened here. The book, tower, and clouds. I really feel that for a long time, things were hanging. You weren't sure what was going on. There was no communication. You were thinking about the person, and I'm pretty sure that the other person is thinking about you as well. Normally, these dynamics are mutual. So for a long time, there was like no closure, like we said, and that could have been really weighing on you. The woman, mountain, and mountain. So this is really like a distance, what we're seeing here. Separation and coldness. And this could have been at the center of things where you or the other person moved away and there was no contact. I really, the emphasis of the mountain here is clearly a no contact situation. The tree, tower, and the heart in between. So this is a very positive message for the relationship. There is a long-term connection, and I really think these are good cards for healing. The tree and tower are slow, so it can take a bit of time, to sort of, come back in these warm feelings. But we're seeing it here. So very, very hopeful for reconnecting and for rekindling that warmth between the two of you. What do we have here? The road and the house and the anchor. I feel this is a landing. The house and anchor is really solid. It's having a good foundation and good grounding, but it comes after the road. So again, we're seeing that it could have been possible for at least some of you of the dice group that there was really a physical parting that prevented this reconnection or understanding what went on. But here we see that there is a coming back together. So this is nice, to support the space where this reconnection can happen and this understanding can happen. And it doesn't have to be physical space, but I really think that for some of you, most of you, it may well be. Look at this lovely triplet, the man, the flowers, and the child. So like we said, the flowers and the child has to do with renewal. And we saw this in the second portrait with the flowers in here. And with the man here, it's clear that it is a relationship that renews. So a beautiful new chapter is at hand. Finally, we have a very powerful message of a whole new chapter that opens up, and a pretty important one. So we've got the mountain and child that figures here again. Notice that we have the mountain in all three portraits. We also have the child in a couple of them, or is it all three? I think it's just a couple of them. A very strong message of a renewal and a new beginning, and the road, which we also saw in the first reading. So again, a really strong message, especially in this position of a new chapter that opens up. The mountain being in all three portraits stands out to me as physical distance could be an issue for some of you, for most of you. The idea of closing that gap could be what's in the way of this, and once it is closed, there's going to be a real opportunity to reconnect and resolve the issues. But it can also point to this idea of being in some kind of stalemate, of not being able to take the first step, the other person not being able to take the first step. There is like a stalemate where it's not sure how it's going to be broken. And this is where the patience cards in your reading come in really handy, where you just hang in there and soon enough there's going to be like a resolution. So this is a very powerful reading for relationships. Your relationship wish is going to materialize, and I feel that a lot has to do with understanding and resolving something that was not closed. And we see this really beautifully and strongly in the cards. So very powerful set of cards for relationships. Now, I said a few times that it can be a new relationship altogether. So in this sense, the past problems that you had been through, whether it was in your personal life or in other aspects of your life, you're going to be able to resolve them, and you're going to be able to open up to a whole new chapter. So for that scenario, the cards are also very beautiful. Focus on allowing time to unfold, and if you can do anything about closing that distance or thawing out the coldness, then do your part, but also take it easy and also honor your intuition in terms of what is right to do when. But overall, your relationship wish materializes, dice group. So thank you for tuning into this amazing reading. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. And I'm really looking forward to your comments. Let me know how this amazing dynamic here unfolds for you. And as always, until next time, thank you so much for watching, and take very good care of yourself. Okay, coin group, welcome to your reading. Let's get into what wishes of yours are going to materialize within the near term. And like I said, you want to define for yourself what you consider to be the near term. I'm starting with this large deck. This is the Game of Hope. And I am going to start by dealing out the first cut of the portraits. This is the first layer, and let's see what wishes are about to materialize. Okay, this is a really interesting spread. It has a very different energy from the other readings that I've done. And it seems to be a little bit layered. There's a few things going on here. The snake is a tricky card, but it's really the only tricky card. The coffin as your first card can have a number of interesting suggestions here. Of course, we have a person that figures in the middle. The man is in the center of your portrait, so this points to a relationship. But there are some interesting indications around this man. When I get an overview of what this portrait is about, I feel that you could get out of what seems to be a tricky situation, and it seems to involve this person here. The column that is on the right with the snake in the middle is pretty telling in the sense. And then we have the coffin that is your cover card, which suggests that you're ready to put something to an end and move on in a new direction. Now, another way we can look at the coffin is that the coffin takes a bit more time. And it is in a key position in the portrait. So it can sort of tell you that this timeline that you have in mind for the near future, near term, might not be met, and that it might take a bit more time before you can get your wish. So let's get into the details of this portrait. This is pretty interesting as far as I'm concerned. So in the first diagonal, we have the coffin and then the man and bear. Now the bear is a card that makes everything big. It can point to managers, people in authority, people of influence, rich people sometimes, and also parents. So we see the bear next to the man, so it suggests that this is someone who is pretty important for you, has a pretty important position in your circumstance, in your environment. But with the coffin here, there can be an ending in this relationship. The child and man and ship in the second diagonal would actually support that. They are brighter and more exciting cards than the coffin here, but they do suggest the beginning. So we have an ending, we have a beginning. They happen together, in back of each other. So the suggestion that something ends with this person is highlighted. And with the ship, it looks like you move on to a different direction. Now, because these are cards on either side of the man, it's possible that he's the one who moves on. He's the one who leaves. And this could be relieving to you because it answers a wish of sorts. It can also suggest that this guy does something to help you end a certain situation. I think this is less likely. I think the idea of a man or a relationship moving on is more likely, but it might still apply for some of you. Now, looking at the top row, we have another clear message coming through here. The coffin and anchor is really bringing something to completion. And we have the ship on the other side of the anchor. So you move on, you bring up your anchor and you sail away. This would have been different if you had the anchor on the other side of the ship, which clearly suggests an idea of arriving and landing and concluding. But with these cards before the ship, it's clear that you move on from something and you go in a new direction, a new adventure suggested by the ship. Now, what is interesting about the anchor with the coffin is that it can be a pretty final ending. I think that you're really done with this and you're ready to move on. And the anchor is also really good with boundaries and with the, the coffin and the box suggestion of the coffin. You are ready to pack this away and move on in a new direction. Sort of similarly, we have the houseman and then the snake at the end. So here I'm seeing yet another suggestion that you're moving away. The snake is pretty challenging in relationships. It tends to be associated with dishonesty, things going on behind your back, but it's also a card that is associated with moving away and typically in the face of disappointment. So the man and house here suggests this is someone you had known or someone you were pretty close to. And then with the snake, there is this clear suggestion that you're moving on from this person, your connection with this person, or whatever involvement you have with him. Again, there is a possibility that he moves away. And in a broader kind of interpretation, there is a relationship that ends. So it's like both of you go your separate ways. Something is brought to conclusion and there is a parting. In the bottom line, we've got the child, tree, and bear. I really like seeing these cards in this position because it's literally the bottom line, and we see this new beginning that comes in the wake of the ending that is clearly represented in the cards above. The tree and bear are also really good cards for growth and empowerment, and they're also good for things like promotions, expansion, also really good for health. A sense of strength and energy can be suggested by the tree and bear. So it's clear that you'll be moving into this new chapter, and this is what you want to do. You want to turn the page on the situation, and you are going to be able to. Something that I'm picking up from your cards for you, coin group, is that I'm not seeing an aggressive change. I'm seeing a natural conclusion or a calm and peaceful kind of closing off of the situation. And the snake certainly adds to this idea of going away quietly, if you like. So continuing on this what I think is a very clear message, we have something similar that comes here in the right-hand side column. We have the coffin, house, and the child. So we have the coffin with an ending situation here, and the child with a beginning situation here on either side of the house. You could be moving homes, or closing off a living situation with someone, or the house can represent something else. It can point to a more intimate connection. It can point to a family situation. It can also point to a team on the job and other such groups. The thing about the house, what is special about it, the kind of energy that it gives off, is that it points to closer, smaller groups. So you can think of this more broadly and sort of tune into what environment you are closing the page on to turn into a new chapter here. So a very clear ending, beginning dynamic. The anchor, man, and tree is actually really good for relationships. There could be a hanging on of sorts. There can be a bit of stubbornness, I have to say. But the way I'm seeing it in the context of this is that this person could be taking his time before something closes, or he moves on, or you are able to move on. And actually this works really well with what we suggested earlier, the idea that the coffin in your cover position suggests that you need to wait a bit longer than maybe you were hoping for. So this person is hanging on, sticking around, or maybe sticking with the situation, possibly being stubborn about it before there is the release. The change and the moving away is very clear from the ship and snake. Both of them are movement cards. Of course, the snake is, has a very different energy than the ship, but it is also about turning away. And with the ship, it's clear that you're moving in a different direction and you're leaving something behind you, because the snake is associated with disappointment and moving on and giving up sort of on something or someone. And the bear brings a sense of importance here. It can mean courage. It can mean the strength to close the door on something and move on. And if you were feeling hesitant, or you felt maybe not capable to do this, to really turn the chapter and move on, well, at this point you will. Again, the coffin can mean that it might take a bit more time for you to build this up before you're able to really turn the page and move on. And like we said, you could be tied up with the situation around the man where he's sticking around, or he's not letting go, or he is committed for a while longer before he can go his own way, which affects you, and you're both able to move on from your involvement together. Now, what is interesting about your cards here is that I'm not really getting a sense of if this is applying on the job, or if it is applying in maybe your home, something personal, something on the family front, if it's a personal relationship, or if it's related to another area of your life. In this sense, the cards are pretty open, so you might want to tune into the dynamics more broadly and then check in with where this could be figuring for you in your life. Also, what I'm picking up from your cards is a sense of calm and peacefulness. I think it's really the snake and the tree and the coffin that have a really quiet energy. And so there is a game of patience here that is at play for you. And of course, the coffin being in this position is telling and supportive of this idea, as are other cards. So patience is going to be needed. It might take a bit more time than you anticipated, but at some point you will be able to move on, to turn the page on the situation and let go of the relationship and the involvement with this person. So with this said, let's now move on to the second layer of portrait. And for this, I am using Titania's Fortune cards. This is another one of my favorite decks. It's like a medium size between the Game of Hope and the last one we're going to use. So let's go ahead and deal out the second cut on top of this one. The snake appears again. Sounds like it's an important card. This is a bit tricky. The man again. And the whip. Oh, nice at the end here. Okay, so for you, coin group, we're seeing again some quiet energies, especially with this line, with the book, but the whip is pretty aggressive and the rider is also pretty energetic. We have the clouds figuring in the middle here. The clouds is a card of turbulence, confusion, and not having clarity. So it is gonna look like a bit of a phase here where you need to process the situation. Maybe think about what you're going to do next. Think about the direction once you turn the page. Definitely the idea of direction and goals is highlighted by this rider here. We get the snake and man again. So these are important cards. We're getting the sign, if you like, from the repetition here. And it really highlights the importance of this relationship, the role that this man plays in your situation. And the snake highlights the importance of discretion, but also the idea of, I would say, being committed to moving away. So let's weave the lines here. The rider and the clouds and the star. I think this is a pretty good combination. The star on the other side of the clouds is very reassuring. It tells us that you're going to achieve the clarity that you desire and you're going to know in which direction to go into. The star is also really good for wish fulfillment. So it's actually really nice to see it in response to the question that we're asking in this pick a card. The thing about the clouds is that maybe you were feeling a little bit confused about this, or you weren't sure. There can be a bit of a muddying of your aspirations, but I think with the strength of the rider and star at the corners here, you're going to pull through, you're going to see through the this nebulous situation and make a decision and engage your enthusiasm and your momentum and move forward and even likely achieve some pretty important goals. We've got the sun and the clouds and the whip here. This is clearly shedding light on the problem. This is about clarifying the problem, clarifying the issues. And actually, when I look at this column here, I really like what I'm reading because the whip and book and then the star following that really suggests that there's going to be like a revelation of what the problem was or is, and there's going to be a resolution. So it's actually really a really bright message. And in the bottom line, which is very much associated with like the outcome of a situation, we have some very beautiful cards on either side of the man. So this can be a really positive resolution with this person. Now, I can suggest that it means that you make up your differences, but I'm not seeing that you stick with the situation. I really still think that you move on and you're able to be freer moving forward once you put this behind you. The thing about this bottom line is that you could move on a good note, on a positive note. So you would have resolved the issues, have brought things out into the open, have clarified the doubts, and there's a whole lot of release and healing that is possible, and that will help you move on. And that is, really well captured by this diagonal. So back to the top, we have the rider, letter, and whip. I really think at this point, there's going to be a revelation, and this actually comes into contrast with the snake, clouds, and book. I think there's a couple of ways we can look at this. On the one hand, it can mean that you receive some news and you're not sure what to make of it. And this line here invites you and advises you to process it. And then in another sense, the news is not what you expected it to be, or maybe you're stuck and you're not able to communicate. In general, I think there is a communication issue, and I think it works well with the previous portrait where there's the coffin, there's the snake. You know, it's like there's a bit of, well, maybe not a bit, but quite a bit of awkwardness and tension and, you know, a number of different ways the stress and the communication could come through for you. But again, the bottom line really brings about healing and clarity. And it's like there's a whole lot of, you know, this tension here is lifted. This is coming very strongly through the sun and star on either side of the man. These are two of the brightest cards of the deck, and both of them have a very powerful healing energy. So this really helps with lifting off the issues in the communication, the differences that, you know, that could have played out. And also the awkwardness that came with the silence, with the, you know, maybe as soon as you spoke, there was a problem. As soon as you started communicating, you know, the tension came through. I want to add that with the snake and the clouds and the book, I think it's really important that you think about what you say before you say it, that you decide what you're going to communicate before you do. And also, when it comes to information and knowledge and facts or the details, you want to really read between the lines or understand what's going on more deeply, because it is not what it seems to be. Even though there is the sun and star on either side of the man, I have to say, coin group, in this portrait, I'm really attracted to what I'm seeing in the inner diamond. We've got the letter and book and the snake and man, and I really feel that this person could be hiding something. And even if there is a resolution or so, I feel that it doesn't really go back to what it was, if this applies. And it's not that it can be a whole new relationship with no issues. I'm really not seeing that. I think there is a really good conclusion and a positive outcome, but it doesn't mean that it changes who the people are. Do you see what I mean, coin group? It's just the facts, you know? So it's good to heal and understand and have clarity and shed light on what's going on, but it doesn't mean that you can, you know, like wash away your need to move on, or, you know, wash away the differences, whatever is more relevant to you in this context. I feel the rider is really supportive here. Now, the rider, snake, and sun is another suggestion that you might want to move on. You know, even if there is, again, like I said, this healing and possibility to mend differences, I think you need to focus on what's best for you. You need to pursue the goals that are meaningful to you. And I also want to add, coin group, that the snake really suggests that you know, you want to not share everything that you have in mind as well. You know, so have constructive self-interest. The letter, clouds, and man tells me that this person could be thinking about getting in touch, but also confused about what to say, confused about what to communicate. And I want to throw it out. I don't normally throw this out there, but because of the other cards that came through, I'm wondering if this person might not be purposely trying to mislead or to withhold, you know, some important details, some important information. Again, like we said, the whip book really helps break out what was held back, and a healing becomes possible. So again, we are seeing in this second layer portrait the focus on a relationship for you, the focus on the issues in this relationship, and the healing outcome that is in store for you. So if you are looking to resolve an issue with someone, whatever the context, it looks like you are going to get this wish. Like we said, because of the first cut, it just might take a bit more time than you were hoping for. So with this said, let's move on to the last layer of the portrait. I've got here the Silhouettes deck. This is my own deck, and it's the smallest of the three here, so we can lay them on top of each other properly. The letter again, the bird is another communication card, the book again, oh, the woman, and the whip again, the clouds again. So we're getting yet another confirmation of the relationship element very strongly at play in your portrait. In fact, your wish is about relationships or a relationship. The heart, woman, and anchor is really good for a supportive relationship. And the bird and mountain on either side of the woman here can suggest a trip. This can support this idea of a parting or a separation, but it is also about being in touch, probably after some time apart or maybe being out of touch. The heart, book, and mountain is great for pursuing an adventure that you still don't know of. So you could be heading in like a new direction, but you still don't know what it looks like. And then the book and mountain, when it comes to travel, can mean that you visit someplace you haven't been to before. Now with the letter and clouds, we're getting more of the energies that we saw in the previous layout. We're getting the issues around communication, the tension, the lack of clarity, and the doubts again here. And with the bird, whip, and anchor, we're seeing this yet again. The bird and whip in my dictionary points to gossip. So it can be about that, like there could be chatter and talk, and this is what is causing the issues that are going to be clarified. But it can also point to maybe shocking news or a disagreement, an argument. All of these are possible. And the thing about the anchor here is that it really encourages you not to back out from the conversation. So again, important communication is at hand. And I think it answers the question rather well, depending on your specifics. So what I'm thinking is if you are in a no contact situation with someone, then contact is ahead. And it will help you resolve the issues or shed some light on some unknown factors. But it's not necessarily without its difficulty, like something could boil over, blow up, or come to the surface. But it's definitely a good time to have this conversation, or it will be the right time or the good time for that. And what's really nice about the anchor here is that it can bring things to a conclusion, a bit like what we saw earlier in your first cut of portrait. Now here's a good line, the heart, letter, and bird. Even though the communication could have been difficult, the line, or will be difficult, the line is telling us that there is going to be communication, and it is going to be relieving to hear or to get feedback. Because the heart is your cover card, I really suggest that you might want to do your best to maintain kindness and possibly compassion. I wish for you to avoid being the one who is heavy-handed in this. I wish for you to maybe open up your heart a little bit and be open to what the other party might have to say. The book and whip on either side of the woman is yet another message of some challenging news that come through, just like we saw, with the second cut portrait. We had the whip on top of the book and the clouds next to it as well. So it's very clear that there's going to be a revelation that involves a bit of a challenging element here. And the mountain, clouds, and anchor is, I would say, a sense of wobbliness. There could be coldness and separation suggested by the mountain and clouds, but the anchor really helps bring this to a firm footing, if you like. So the anchor helps you avoid doubt, avoid confusion, and it also tells you to stop overthinking this, stop wobbling, stop hesitating, stand your ground and don't be wobbly anymore. And this really comes in the context of this conversation, this revelation that comes through. So don't feel like it's going to rock your boat so much, or stand in front of this and deal with whatever issues have been bubbling up between the two of you, or the issues that were never resolved. So the good news here from your portrait, and I appreciate Coin Group that there's quite a bit of tension and issues in this relationship. The good news is that if you were in a no contact situation, or if you were having doubts about what was going on, then you're gonna see this resolved. There's gonna be clarity, there's gonna be contact. Even if the contact is a bit quarrelsome, it is a good thing that you're back to talking at least. And also, if you're looking to turn the page on a situation, you're going to have all the reasons you need to do that. And what's really nice about these cards is that you're going to have a sense of closure on what had passed, and you will be able to turn the page and move on. Now, in some situations, for some of you, it can mean that the relationship improves and you're back together, but I am getting a stronger message of a turning away and a moving on. We saw this very strongly from the first portrait, and we have some pretty tough cards in the next two portraits. So I'm not seeing in the cards this idea of a connection or, a coming back together, like the flowers and the ring, in all of these different combinations that would suggest the idea of healing and coming back together. Instead, it's healing and understanding, and now the option to move on. That's more of the dynamic that I'm hearing. So with this said, let's now wrap up your layered portrait and look at the triplets across all levels. Starting with the top one here, let's go back. We've got the Coffin, Rider, and Heart. And I think that you're happy to bring something to a conclusion. You're happy to have achieved something, to, be heading to the finish line. I think this is something that excites you. You're ready to move on. We've got the Anchor, Letter, and Book. The Letter and Book is a powerful combination of important news that comes through. And with the Anchor, it's very clear that you will get the news, that you get the feedback. The Anchor is generally positive, so it would mean an acceptance or a positive application or a positive feedback. But when we look at this in the context of the rest of your portraits, I think that it's really more about being clear in your communication. I think that it's more about being clear in your communication and setting expectations and having boundaries, and also being confident and standing behind what you're saying. So say what you mean and mean what you say when the time comes. The Ship and Whip and Mountain. So the whip between these two travel cards can really mean that it's a bumpy road. It doesn't have to be travel literally, although it can mean that. And remember, in your first cut portrait, we saw the possibility of moving. Is that what we saw? I believe so, yes, with the child and the coffin on either side of the house. That was where it came from. The whip really throws a wrench a little bit in any travel plan. So it could go a bit of in a bumpy way, and it can also point to obstacles ahead. But again, this is part of what needs to be clarified so that you can actually move on. I am also getting an indication of, if you like fighting for what you want, if we can put it this way, the idea of going after it. Even though actually we had the snake, and the snake was pretty quiet here. So it's an interesting contradiction if you want to read it this way. But I think the snake is really more when it comes to dealing with the other person. When it comes to going after what you want, you really want to apply the energy, because the whip is a very energetic card. So here's the snake coming up. Yeah, I mean, the House, Snake, and Letter, you could be privy to this information. It can be gossip, like we saw with the Bird and Whip, and things going on behind the scenes. And this could be part of what's really disappointing, is that you come across, some toxic character, or some, toxic information, some mean things being said by some people. And this could be what leads you to sort of start to pivot away. The snake can also suggest here that you want to be careful about, who you say what to. So be careful who you communicate with. Check your messaging always, and definitely withhold information from people you don't trust until you can actually pivot away. In the center, oh, look at this. We have the man and the woman figuring in the center. Now that is a powerful portrait dynamic. Yeah, this 3D portrait business is really interesting, how the layers talk to each other. We have the man and the woman Clearly, this brings into the focus of your reading a relationship. And they're also the center cards. And between them, there's the clouds. So definitely your wish surrounds resolving a difficult situation with someone. And I can't really say for you, coin group, that it is 100% resolved, but it certainly is better understood. There is contact and there is clarification, even if it's a bit tense. And then we have the snake with the book and clouds. So we've seen this across the layers. Look at this one and the snake with the man. So clearly here, there is a secret. There are secrets and things going on behind the scenes. That's why the gossip combination can figure really well. So again, I really suggest that you keep it under your hat and that you double check everything before you communicate, because you don't want to miscommunicate. So I really think that you should keep it under your hat. I also think that the snake very much encourages you to not be reactive. So you might get a curveball thrown at you. You might discover something that's being said. There could be the tension going on. It's important that you are patient, like we saw a few times already, and that you deal with the uncertainty and the doubt until there can be that boiling over, if you like, or that a release of sorts. So it can be a bit challenging for a while. Moving on to the bottom row. Now this is a really bright combination. There is hopefulness. So here the healing starts to show. We have the child and sun and the bird. So the bird and sun is really the light at the end of the tunnel. And with the child here, the new beginning is at hand. So this is one of those combinations that give me the impression that it's more likely that you're going to turn the page and move on, as opposed to fix the relationship and sort of stick with it. I'm not seeing it going back to what it was. I'm not seeing your involvement in the situation going back to what it was. I think you're ready to move on. And this is a really bright set of cards for healing. Here's the one with the man. So we have the one with we have the man twice. Now that's powerful. The tree, man, and whip. So this really reminds me to what we saw in the first cut, where the man sort of takes his time. We've got the tree man, like we had the tree man. And guy takes his time, so this could be a bit frustrating. This is what is putting things on hold and, maybe causing things to take more time or dragging out. But then with the whip, there is like the strike. So, things pick up and change and move, after a time of, maybe sitting on your laurels type of thing. I also think the man could be trying to time this right. And then with the whip, there is like the opening or the revelation and the change that could come a little bit out of the blue, and it sets things into motion. But also, I feel from a character kind of perspective, I feel that this man, is not what he seemed to be. He has like a dual facet where he has a calm side, but also an aggressive side. With this snake all over, I feel that this could be a passive-aggressive person, and this could be part of the frustration. Finally, we have a really beautiful message here. Look at this. In the face of everything here, in the face of all of these tricky cards, we have a triplet that says, literally, that your wish will be fulfilled. The anchor with the star, the bear with the star. The star is the wish fulfillment card. And with the anchor, there is a strong conclusion. The bear is equally strong. In fact, the bear and anchor have a lot in common, if you can check out my card combinations master. And we really see that you will get your wish. So this is a tricky kind of road, a tricky situation, a tricky transition with a lot of facets actually, but then things really work out to your advantage and you get what you want. So I really like the star's message here. It really tells you to have faith in yourself, and the Bear and Anchor are really strong cards. So don't give up on yourself, don't compromise, and really stand behind yourself. You know, have confidence in your capability. You can move past this, you can resolve this. And also you will get, you know, your wish if it involves other aspects or other things that are related to the situation. So that is a really powerful way to wrap up this portrait. I hope you've been watching long enough, because if you dropped off earlier, that is too bad, because this is a really beautiful message at the conclusion here. So overall, coin group, this is a really, really exciting spread for you. Let me know what you made of it. Let me know what relationship issue you were dealing with and what you were hoping to get or to resolve in this tricky situation in this relationship. Thank you so much for tuning in, coin group. I really hope you enjoyed it. Leave me a comment, and until next time, as always, thank you so much for watching, and take very good care of yourself.